Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill Neiman's Bogus Hangout. And have our guests introduce themselves. Start with Sarah. Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zara Altair, and I write content for the web, and it's always fun to be here.
Terry.
Terry Van Horn. I live in Toronto, Ontario, and I just here to piss everybody off. I live to do that.
And our guest, Doc Sheldon, who has been at recently.
Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Deep SEO Con. And I'm just here to needle Terry a little bit so he can piss everybody off.
And I'm Bill Slosky of SEO by the Sea and the Director of SEO Research for Go Fish Digital. And I do have a question for y'all. What things are most important about a website in terms of SEO that you want to get out there for people? I've been seeing articles about things like link graphs. And I wrote one about inverted indexes.
Those are the basics. I think if I was starting a SEO course, those are the first two things that I would talk about. And then probably the knowledge graph would follow that.
Yeah, I agree with the knowledge graph as third. Yeah.
The reason for that they are the foundation of everything else. Works off of those graphs.
Mm-hmm. So I would guess that Zara might have something to say about good storytelling.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than storytelling. It's saying the right thing to the right person. You want to make sure that the content speaks to the visitor that you want as a customer. I don't know how to say that, because some people may land there inadvertently for whatever reasons. And if they aren't a potential customer, you want them to sort of understand right away that this isn't the place for them. And the storytelling is based on benefits. It is not features. It's not how intelligent our IT experts are, because that doesn't mean anything to your user. And I think I mentioned here before that a couple of years ago I did reviews of something like 42 software as a system websites, and oh man, and there was a lot of that stuff there was, we're brilliant, we're cool, and that doesn't get your customer, it doesn't resonate with your customers.
But what makes something memorable? What makes people stick around to page 2?
What makes something memorable?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, Bill, in my opinion, is that you nail what your customer wants to know. So when you're writing for a business, okay, which is my job, right?
Yeah.
When you're writing for a business, that there's all those competitors out there. And what makes it memorable for a customer is making it feel like the business is talking to them and their problem and how it can be resolved. And it's just like basic stuff, but people don't do it.
I've got some vision in my mind of Minority Report, where the billboard starts talking to Tom Cruise about the jeans he bought the week before.
Right?
And the web can be like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not that personalized, but pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah. think the other thing that I would to expand on what Sarah said a little bit would be to set yourself aside from the competition as well. What are you able to offer them that is a little bit more than what the others can offer them? Whether that be in terms of benefits or in terms of price or in terms of clarity, just getting the message across to them quicker, clearer, and in a more precise way than a competitor site might. The competitor site might be just as, their product and offering may be just as good, but if their presentation isn't as good, you've got an edge on them.
Yeah, you do, and I just that's a more expansive way of what I was trying to point out, that thing that resonates and answers the consumer's concern is the way that you stand out. So let's go back to our IT guys are really smart, okay? But if you tell the customer that this bookkeeping software keeps track of everything, generates reports, allows the accountant to come in and access the information, and it goes straight to their accounting process or whatever it is that you're doing, so that it solves that bookkeeping process for the business. That's all over. Our IT guys are really brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. When I hear people talk about relevance of a site for outreach, right, I laugh because I could care less whether it's relevant to Google. I'm looking for a target audience. If I'm selling telephone, any site with lots of traffic in the area that I want it, they're better than any other relevant site around.
And you have been known to say more than once, Terry, Google never bought a damn thing from me.
That's right. Google doesn't buy anything.
That's right. Yeah.
And too many people believe that that's what outreach is about, is getting relevant links. It might not help a lot with your SEO, but, you know, I get assessed on how, hopefully the guy I'm working for or the people that you're working for should realize that sales are more important than rankings.
So
I could rank for 100 keywords that don't make a single sale.
One of the first questions I ask myself when I link out from my website are, do I trust these people I'm linking to with my customers?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's like making a personal referral. It's like, you know, if you need this, then you should go talk to Doc, you know, or whatever, you know.
Oh God, don't talk to Doc. That
don't talk to Doc. All right, well,
you don't want to go there.
You know, but that, I mean, every referral is a personal referral is a reflection on you and your business. And if you're referring people to the wrong folks, it reflects on your business, because in asking for a referral, they're looking for a trusted advisor, you know, where should I go next for this, whatever it is. And the same thing goes for links, in my opinion. If your links on your page are referrals, and you're saying, you know, here's an authority for whatever the link is, right? And if they're there on your business page, that's them perceiving you as referring to this information, this source, this whatever it is that your link is. That's my opinion.
Google's trust algorithms are all about, do we trust sending our customers, our traffic to this website? That's how they're looking at it. They don't care who ranks, They only care that
No, they don't. One of the things we're looking at with, I'm involved with a startup business, and one of the things we were looking at, when was it, Sunday, I guess, is how Google is responding to what's going on the website because it's new, and looking at the clinks, the clicks, the clicks and the sessions, and that Google is paying attention to the website.
The other thing, a little bit of a tangent that I think it kind of drives me nuts because it's something that used to be talked about quite a bit, and lately I see almost nobody paying any attention to the fact is once you've identified your audience, once you've identified what sort of content you need to provide to answer their questions or satisfy their needs, where's your conversion? Where's your funnel? What's the next step in the process? And I don't see anybody talking about it. I mean, obviously some people are doing it, but I think that too many people are focused on making Google happy with the content on their site instead of trying to turn that visitor into a customer.
if you do that, you don't have to worry about Google.
Yeah,
You're
through
doing
Google.
exactly what Google wants you to do.
Yeah, and nobody is paying a lot of lip service, at least, to that. I'm sure that there's some folks, successful folks out there are doing it. Maybe they're just not talking about it. But it used to be very common to be talking about the funnel, about the conversion process, about how to take them to the next step in the conversion process. And when's the last time you saw anybody even mentioning that?
We talked about that kind of stuff a lot on the dojo.
Sure, but I mean, in Facebook or Twitter, it just doesn't seem to get any attention anymore. Everybody's focused on Google.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We put together a 10 session digital marketing series with Ammon, and there's a whole section on that right at the beginning. We're just like, don't skip around, go from session 1 to session 2, and conversion rate is right up there. If you're not converting, what's the point?
Yep.
You can have the prettiest website, you can have all kinds of stuff, but if you're not converting.
That's why when I hear people crying about losing their discovery links and top story links and all that stuff, well, who cares? Probably no one's converting off that stuff anyhow. I mean, look at that. Who cares how much traffic? Our job is not to send traffic. Our job is to is to get people to a site that are going to buy.
Oh yeah, let's focus on hit count. How many hits on my page?
There's a reason why I don't have AdSense on my site.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people leaving the site to click on ads that are worth pennies to me.
Yeah. I never understood that one.
Well, that's just a person who's too lazy to make their own ads or sell their own ads. I mean, there's a ton of plugins for WordPress to do ads.
Right, but if you're going to have calls to action, have calls to action.
Right.
Right.
Don't have ads.
And you want
call to action is for your business. Do you know what I mean?
Right. If I have ads on my site, there can be ads for other SEO firms.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I do. At least
you
on
want calls to other SEO firms?
Yeah, on SEO Pros, there's on every page there's a list of 10 or so.
Oh, okay.
That have paid me at one time or another to be a member. I don't sell ads.
Well, that's a little different because that's like a marketplace sharing. Yeah. That is not like AdSense.
That's the focus of the site, and he's selling to his
Yeah.
audience.
Well, and it's also a place where hopefully people are going to find good SEOs.
Right.
So the point is to get them coming back to your site.
Yeah. But how do you do that? Write good stuff like you do, and you'll never have any trouble getting people to your website. It's when you're writing the article on, the 10 best ways to get 1,500 links today or some asinine thing like that, right? Like, how useful is that? Not very.
That's that thing, Terry, where that to me is the same thing as telling me how smart my IT guys are, and designing this SaaS product. It is that it has nothing to do with the customers. I mean, the bottom line is, are people buying from this website? I mean, if you're in business, that's what the bottom line is of
Yeah,
having
you don't
the web.
sell your smart IT guy. You sell that the smart IT guys developed a program that makes your customers happier.
Right, and then the whole idea of communicating with the customer is the customer being happy, and it just so happens that the smart IT guys help achieve that, but that's not the selling point, isn't the smart IT guys.
Yeah, I don't care what features are in a program, because if I don't use them, they don't mean anything.
Yep.
Right? I only care about what's going to benefit me when I'm buying something. I could care less what the company thinks is good for me. I decide what's good for me. And I think most people are like that.
Oh, that is such a really good, say that again, Terry, because I think that's really important.
I said, I don't listen to what a company says is good for me. I decide what benefits me, not the company. So they could say I'm the best, and I'll say that's to be determined.
Yep.
And I think that's the way a lot of people shop. Or you have a lot of useless shit at your home.
Yeah.
Some people do buy just because it has certain features. Well, if I like SEMrush, that's my big thing with them. I don't use 90% of what's in it. So for me, it's way overpriced because I don't use all the features. Like, charge me for what I use, not what you offer, because what you offer doesn't do what I can do myself better. So why would I use your program? Why make me pay for it? I used to think that was the biggest ripoff in SEO was SEMrush. Any company that charges for keywords in 2022 is a massive ripoff. We used to pay for keywords because it actually cost money to store the data. Now hardware and software is a commodity. It's nothing. It's a cost of doing business. Not a big deal. So that's just a ripoff as soon as you start charging by keyword. And that's my soapbox entry for today.
One of the things I like about this group, these Tuesday sessions, is we do get on soapboxes. I think I got on 4 a couple of weeks ago, one right after another. That
Might be some more of that today when we get onto the linking stuff.
But I think everyone here is impassioned about what they do and impassioned about serving our clients to serve their customers.
I'm impassioned that, people get better at this because I think there's way too much malarkey in this industry.
I got a question for you, Terry. Over the last 2-3 years, do you think, is your perception that there are fewer jacklegs or more out there pretending to be SEOs?
Oh, way more.
Yeah, okay.
Way more.
Then it ain't just me.
I would say a very high percentage of the people out there are posers. What I call a poser. Like, to me, if you don't understand all of indexing and crawling and the link graph and the knowledge graph, you're not an SEO.
I was wondering if it was just me, because I would like to think that it's getting better, and yet it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be getting to be worse every day.
Well, there's just not the proper training out there, Doc.
Well, that's certainly a part of it. The other thing is,
I follow a guy on Facebook just to see the stupid shit that he puts out there, and I see literally hundreds of people lining up to drink his bullshit.
Yep.
Like, anyone who says I can, this is literally what he had on Facebook the other day. Would you be interested in knowing how I can build a website and have it rank on the first page of Google in local in 30 minutes? I thought to myself, who the fuck would believe a statement like that? First of all, you can't even build a decent website in 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Yeah.
Not from scratch.
well, the problem that I see is that there's such a dearth of critical thinking. Everybody wants to grab whatever sounds convenient or satisfies their pre-existing bias or makes their job easier, even if it's less productive. As long as it's less effort, then they're in for that.
And everybody wants tools that will do it for them, so they don't have to do
Exactly.
the
Tools
work.
that will do it for them. Yeah.
I'll get
No
up
one
at
has
8.
really realized the value in not using tools.
And
When
there-
Dave and I had the
there-
dojo, we stressed, don't use tools.
And
Tools are for discovery. You can't do anything. You can't do actionable stuff with tools.
And there are people who complain about being forced to think when they read something, and would rather read something that's half wrong and half-assed.
That's what, because Google steps up every day and puts out all kinds of useless information. Like, it doesn't matter where a link is, they're all the same. Well, if you believe that, your future is at McDonald's, not in this industry.
Would you like fries with that?
Get a spatula and
Get used to
practice,
that. You're going to say
practice
it
flipping
live.
burgers, right?
I want you to think for me.
For sure. I can't believe it sometimes. The stuff that, John said in the last 3 days, 3 different things about links where he basically said, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, if you believe that a link in the header or in the sidebar or in the footer is the same value as a contextual link, again, your future is in flipping burgers, not SEO. Because there is a huge difference between those things. Huge. And that, and John isn't doing it for any other reason than they're trying to make people think that these things aren't that important in the big scheme of things, and they aren't. But it's all of these little things done right that is what page optimization is all about. Every one of those decisions is what determines your on-page optimization success.
Yep.
Just like people say, oh, headings don't matter, and, having bulleted lists, they don't matter. Bullshit. Like if you, the thing is, guys, that people like us, like Bill, and to probably a lesser extent, Doc, and I, and probably even more so Zara, we were around when those were all the things that you could optimize for Google. So did Google all of a sudden say, we aren't even going to look at that stuff, it doesn't matter anymore? Yeah, right. They're just going to throw that stuff away. No. It still matters, not as much as it used to. And that's what people don't realize.
So what's changed?
There's a lot more things being looked at.
The fact that there are a lot more SEOs who don't have the actual experience? I mean, people on LinkedIn who've been around for 3 years all of a sudden call themselves SEO expert.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, as soon as you say you're an SEO expert, I know you're not. Because anybody who's been doing it for very long knows you're never an expert. You're always learning. You're always, looking to get better.
Yeah.
So you can never look at yourself. Well, I may know a lot about it, and I may know more than most people, but I don't really like being called an expert. I'll call my dad that occasionally because, that's self-promotion. But it's not a term I throw around a lot.
Well, certainly don't put it on your LinkedIn profile.
So you're not a guru and you're not a ninja?
Oh, shit, no. I'm not religious. So I can't be a guru. I don't know martial arts, so I can't be a ninja either.
Yeah, those kind of terms to me only mean something when your colleagues refer to you that way.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody tells me that Bill is a patent expert, that means something. Bill's not about to say I'm a patent expert, and if he did, it wouldn't mean shit.
I think it wouldn't mean shit at first until you go to his website and read 2 or 3 articles and realize, oh, this guy does know something.
Well, no, but I mean in terms of just making a statement doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, it's not self-proclaiming.
Yeah.
So I don't read patents to learn about patents.
Nope.
I read patents to learn about SEO, about search.
Right.
And a patent's not about search, I'm not going to read it. So if you tell me you don't have all of Google's patents, you say, yeah, I don't have the medical ones. I don't have the ad-based ones.
Right. You're a specialist. You're a search patent specialist or expert.
He's a ninja guru expert.
Right. I had to give up my guru days because the cross became too heavy to carry after all the ninja incidents.
Yeah, my knees got sore from all the sitting cross-legged.
Long ago in high school, beginning Latin, I always loved Hercules because whatever he needed was right there. He just happened to have it with him. Rope ladder, no problem. I've got it. And trying to think of this guy tromping all over, carrying all this stuff.
Holy rope ladder, Batman. Yeah. It's here my utility belt.
Well, I think let's see, I get the harmful reverberations of all the ninja guru experts because then business owners think they know all about SEO. So then they ask for weird things. And I have to tell them, no, I am not a technical SEO. That is not what I do.
They don't know the difference.
They don't know.
I love when a client watches a competitor and what they do, and then asks you to do it too, and you have to say, no, we don't categorize URLs in XML sitemaps because it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
We could if we wanted to waste your money, but we're
There
here
you
to
go.
save you money, not
Right.
There
waste.
you go, Terry. Yeah.
It's
And that's
good.
what a lot
it's,
of people got to realize. Sometimes SEOs are just selling services.
It's good that your competitor is spending their time doing something that's completely useless.
Exactly.
Yeah, I used to hate that when clients start sending you posts from other guys. One guy finally just wrote him back and said, "You want to hire him because you're going to need him soon."
Hey, you send me one more email like that, you're going to need him.
It's
Yeah.
it's no fun having an audit and being given somebody else's SEO and saying, "Was this right? Because we can implement this stuff." Say, I'm here to do an audit for you. I'm not here to audit somebody else's audit for you.
Yeah.
I just would say something along the lines of, "Well, they do things a little bit differently than me." So
Mhm.
if you will see things that are the same, but you'll also see things that are dramatically different, or even reverse of what the other people think.
It's the reason why I'm doing SEO for you and they're not anymore.
Right. That's a good one. Anymore. Why are you here if they were so good?
Yeah. It obviously didn't work.
Yeah. To me, it's like I want clients that want to leave me to do their job, to do my job, and they do their job. And if I say to them, "You should do this with your business," they should listen to me. Right? If they don't listen, then I fire them. Because if they're wrong, they don't get fired. I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you spend so much time learning about things like the link graph.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to work at things. You can't expect, over the time that I've been doing this, how did I learn so much? Because I was always eager to learn something new, a new thing about links. Or I would do, PPC just to see, what would happen. Well, I learned more about CTAs and keywords, right?
Yeah.
Than I did about PPC in the time that I did PPC. So it was more useful in SEO than it was in PPC.
And you
Because
learn
anybody can look and decide whether it's worth money to buy that keyword, right?
I've had people make the argument that a PPC does really good keyword research and that should be useful for your website. And I say, you're missing the point of PPC. When someone has advertisements, they're choosing words that are good transactional words.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
They're choosing words that cause other people to buy and sell immediately. They're
And
not focusing on informational words.
yeah. And I found that it was very good at discovering new CTAs to put on your site as well. Because it's like response advertising, right? You get feedback immediately
But if
from what they're clicking and what's selling
if you
from those
understand
words.
if you understand a customer journey, you understand that a customer goes through phases where they're
Right.
Yep.
not just comparing which product to buy, they're deciding whether or not they even want to buy that product.
Right.
What does it do? How does it solve their problem? Does it solve their problem? They're researching that. They're not trying to find out what's the best stain cleaner. they're trying to find out how to stay clean in the first place.
Yeah, that's what, because what I liked about it too was you could take something, right, and target a CTA and learn from that. What to put on your website to make people move to the next section, or what they're looking for on your website as well.
Yeah.
I found it very good at that kind of stuff. And for seeing what keywords that actually could make people buy, that people bought immediately, right?
The first website I worked on, we were thrilled when we were number 2 to a government website that provided very same information, but didn't provide a way to transact business. So it would link to us. It would say that we're a provider of that service, and it wouldn't provide the service itself. So people
Right.
would go to that page, read about it, and then go back to the search results and click on us and buy from us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's where the CTA in your title and description was working off the result above you.
Yeah.
That's very smart. Yeah.
At number 2, we were outselling ourselves at number 1.
Yeah, sometimes going down can be a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's where really understanding that being number 1 isn't always what it's cracked up to be. Especially these days when number 1 is below the fold.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, there are other things above the fold. Take advantage of them.
Those are the things you should be targeting on those pages. That's why, people who just use ranking programs and don't actually go to the SERP and look at the SERP, they are missing a lot of valuable information.
People spend money and time on building things that people pay attention to, like billboards or TV commercials or radio commercials. Make it memorable. Make people come to your website or go to your store.
Yeah. The one client I have left, I haven't done a ranking report or nothing on SEO for a long time. And I went the other day, and on the first page for a lot of terms. And when I looked at it, I saw all kinds of opportunities, right? So if I had been just using a ranking program, I would have seen, we're number 1 all over the place. I don't need to do anything more. When I went to the SERP, I realized that there was 4 or 5 different posts that I could put on their blog that would substantially increase their sales.
In nearly 19 years, I have never, ever done a single ranking report. And I don't think that I've missed the boat, because I don't give a damn about rankings. I care about what's the ROI, what's the conversion rate, the fact that you rank number 1 for this keyword and number 7 for that keyword doesn't mean shit. Which keyword is bringing you the best conversions?
I agree.
But
I use it more to get an idea of what the progress is like.
I'll look at them, but I've never done a ranking report.
If the ROI and the sales are increasing, you kind of know by the pages that it's happening on, Doc.
Yeah.
But why is that happening? We're number 1 on Google now.
Often you have customers who ranking reports are important too.
The only thing they understand is a ranking report. They know sales. They usually know sales, but a ranking report is number one.
I'm the dean of a major college. I want to rank for this phrase. I want to be number one. If my competitor is number one, I'm not going to sleep.
But I spend a lot of time and energy telling those clients why reading a ranking report is a waste of their time.
And sometimes
they need to be putting their attention where it's going to do them some good, not on a meaningless report.
Sometimes they're thick-headed.
Yeah, no shit.
See, I combine ranking report with GA analysis as well, right? So you look at rankings and you look at the analysis, the analytics analysis, and use it too to write a monthly report. And quite often I did monthly goals where I'd say this month I'm going to write this content for this reason to rank for these terms. So the ranking report was important to them because that's how we were measuring success.
Yeah, and I have done that too. Like on a content strategy, for instance, when I find that there's some key terms that they could be ranking for, beating their competitor for, and I'll say, okay, over the next 3 months, we're going to do 12 pieces on these 3 topics because I want to take advantage of these key terms that you're not presently attacking, and your competitor is. Okay, that's different. But I don't consider that a ranking report. What position they're in for a given term doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Well, here's the other thing. The only reason I used SEMrush ranking tool was because it told me the universal elements that were in a SERP. So it'd tell me if I was in local. It'd tell me where I was. So it saved me time, Doc. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but what I would do is after I saw that, right, I would go to I still found myself going to Google to look at the actual SERP. But it told me where candidates and whatnot, especially when Dave and I were teaching SERP out, remember, on the dojo. So that kind of stuff was important. And I still think that is a part of SEO that people don't pay enough attention to.
I agree. Yeah, I think the missed opportunities is way too ignored.
Yeah. And a lot of people, if you see a ranking drop, right? Well, you can get freaked out, right? But you can go to that SEMrush report and say, oh, there's a featured snippet on that ranking result now. So it probably wasn't doing us any good anyhow. You look it up and sure enough, no conversion.
Yeah.
Before it was a featured snippet, you know what I mean? Because usually if a page gets a featured snippet, it's informational. It wasn't actually driving that many sales to begin with.
Very true.
To me, if transactions aren't happening from the page is not that important. Not as it should be there, but it doesn't help that much in the funnel. Because people, when they're looking at those pages, are too early in the sales journey to actually make a decision about buying that. So you have to convert them into actual people that want to go deeper into the website and do a transaction. And that isn't even really SEO. That's the marketing part of the job. I've always looked at SEO as, SEO's job is to get people to the page. Once they're on the page, that's Zara and the web design. That's a few people's job, but it's not really the SEO's job unless he has direct control over those things. So people would tell me, well, you can't do the content on the site. Well, I'd say, okay, then all I'm responsible for is driving traffic. I don't want to hear about not making sales. I don't want to hear that, people, it's wasted, all that. That's your fault, not mine. I'm doing my job.
I think that's one of the reasons that all the expert guru ninjas get all that traction, because people don't understand that difference, and so they bamboozle them with all this stuff, and it has nothing to do with the case, as it were. Do you know what I mean?
The biggest difference,
yeah,
between SEO now and SEO 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we were building the sites and trying to rank them, right, Bill, in most cases? That's been my experience anyhow. If you're with a bigger agency, you might see some difference. But for me, it was always, I got the job building the website because I could also do SEO. In fact, I didn't really charge extra for the SEO input at that time. To me, it was like, if I write a title as the creator of the website, well, I'm going to use what I know about SEO naturally. I'm not even going to look at it any other way. So why should I charge for that? I get the long-term business that way. Like, I never had too many clients that were only with me for a short period of time. Usually years.
We've had a few leave when they decided that they wanted to try to do the SEO. And it's good when those people come back.
They always do. Or they go broke before they come back. I saw that. I actually worked for a company and I had them ranking so well that I finally said, you know what, I've run out of stuff to do. So, find someone to maintain, right? And I'm going to move on. They actually sent me a letter in print, like not an email, but an actual letter thanking me for all that I did for them. 3 months later, they weren't to be found because they hired some Indian company that thought, using all these blogs that were like WordPress.org and Square something, and there's all kinds of them back in the day that were basically honey holes for Google to find spammers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a company that were pushing the envelope when I was with them. Because they had like easily 10 websites all running the same database. And that was back when, the common practice was you'd have one site or Google wasn't too happy when you started building all kinds of microsites. Which nowadays that's cool, but back then it wasn't, probably because Google couldn't manage it the way it can now.
You think Google can manage more now than they could before?
Oh, yeah. I always laugh when people say, oh, PBNs are fine. They work. Oh, yeah, they work because Google lets them work. So they can find more people spamming. It's a honey hole for them. Nothing more, nothing less. Why would you? That's like the cop who watches guys dealing on the corner for months to learn more about what's going on there with the organization.
So
Google does the same thing with PBNs.
So Google's quite good at recognizing what a PBN is when it sees it.
Oh, God, yes.
Of course.
It's just following the money.
Right.
Yep.
That's why they don't bust them. I mean, why would you right away? People think that Google is like that, eh? Google will take its time.
They have their own little confidential informants across the web.
That's right. Well, mostly you're ratting on yourself just by the choices you make. You know, people think that Google only finds PBNs because people report them. They already know about most of them when they're reported. I mean, it's not hard to see the unnatural linking going on those places.
Somebody's talking about Google starting a glossary of terms.
Yeah.
There are some I'd like to see Google's definitions of, like bipartite graph, which is the part of a link graph that identifies things like PBNs because of how close pages are to each other in that link graph.
Right. But we call it differently. We call them PBNs. They call them that, right? Just like an SEO sees CTR because his tools only show CTR. Google says click analysis because they see more signals than just click-through rate. So they'll never speak the same language. Anybody who thinks they can make an SEO glossary, they don't even speak the same languages.
Nope.
They speak Googleese, right? That's what they speak.
So they don't look at click-through rates. They look at click selections or failures to click.
Or just click analysis in general.
Yeah.
They're not looking at that specific thing. But our tools don't tell us those other things. All they show is click-through rate. So an SEO app, you know, what is the click-through rate, blah, blah, blah. John says, no, we don't use click-through rate. Well, of course, it's not even in their vocabulary. People don't see that.
So we look at click selections. We don't look at click-throughs.
Right. But more so, I call it click analysis because they're looking at multiple signals. When they're looking at CTR, they aren't looking at just what was clicked or how many times it was clicked. They're looking at a lot more, lot more signals than that. Probably right down to, is this something that person often looks at? Right? Right down to that level. So
what time of the day is it? What time of the year is it?
Right. Yeah, even, when you think about it, Google is seasonal. Because if you're in the right business, you see a different SERP at Christmas than you do in August.
Mm-hmm.
Way different. I've seen, when I was in pajamas, I saw companies on their, sites on the first page that at Christmas were on page 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything on the first page was transactional. Nobody cared about pajamas.org anymore because they were just giving away pajamas. And everyone searching them were looking to buy them. That's when I really started to see the value in SERP out analysis was when universal search started.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of opportunities could get found there.
So back then, you'd search for something like Amazon, you'd see lots of images, lots of news. You search for Amazon now, you see lots of knowledge type stuff. Like people also ask questions, related entities.
Yeah, lots of questions about Amazon, the company.
Sort of undergone a transformation or an evolution.
Evolution. It's evolved. That's what I like about searches. When you've been watching it as long as we have, we've seen it evolve from, basically matching words on a page to a whole other, like, unfathomable back then.
Yeah, I love the clustering stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just, look at the advances in technology have driven that, right? The costs and whatnot for having all that memory and stuff, right? And storage is, a lot different than it was back then. So things were done differently. Like Google 20 years ago couldn't even, begin to think about doing the stuff it does now because there just wasn't the computing horsepower to do it, even if they knew how to do it.
And it still has room to advance.
Well, sure, as the technology gets better, they will get better. And they're constantly looking, at new things. Like the biggest change now for me is natural language processing is leading to. I saw someone you and I know very well, Bill, from years on the web saying how NLP is just, just write good stuff on the web. Well, it means a lot more than that, because if you really look at it, it's enabling Google to better understand intent. All kinds of things are the result of better processing of the words on the page, better understanding.
I'm looking at patents these days that talk about human-to-computer interactions and dialogue. And one of them says, okay, so you're using natural language processing with the computer to provide input to it. Problem is, when you're having these conversations, human beings tend to change topics really quickly and confuse the hell out of computers. So how does the computer adjust to that? It remembers everything you said. It tags those things. It keeps an internal monologue that says the topic is this, the topic is this, the topic is this. Oh, you want to know about the weather? Well, we'll talk about the weather for a few seconds. Let's see if you go back to the topic. If you do, great. If not, we'll keep on talking about the weather.
Till you tell us to talk about the topic again.
Right.
Do you think that's one of the things they were, I don't know, examining with Google Plus, because Google Plus had such deep conversations, and as the conversations progressed, things shifted and changed. I'm just curious. It just popped into my head as you were talking, because Google Plus was a giant data experiment, I'm just curious if you think that's one of the things they did, because I don't see any other place where that really happens the way it did on Google Plus.
Well, I remember Goog 411 when they had the conversations on the phone with people and gave business directory information. And that was very good for learning about businesses and learning about how people talk and interact.
Mm-hmm.
Google Plus wasn't so much about talking directly to the computer. It was about people talking to each other. And they were gathering information about stuff like what the expertise of different people were on their network and how they showed it off, how they how other people learn about that expertise. So they were sort of like analyzing us under microscopes, but not themselves.
I see. Okay.
That Google Talk, I saw a video by the person in charge of that, and he said they learned a lot about language from Google Talk because they had, literally millions of hours of stuff to analyze. And that's where machine learning and that kind of stuff comes in.
I can believe that.
That's
So-
something I think would be useful for us to do a talk on sometime, Bill, is that sort of thing.
So the post I wrote today was again on human-to-computer interaction, and it was, should a computer offer unsolicited content to a human? When a speaker device can tell whether or not there's a person near based on something like motion detectors or Bluetooth. So if the person has a phone or something like that, it knows that there's a person using a phone nearby. It can talk to that person. It can.
Also, it says,
But
hello, would you like to make a
unsolicited?
phone call?
It can tell from prior conversations what you're interested in. It can tell from your location whether or not you're available to talk to. If you had a conversation about a book or a movie or something like that the day before, and as a computer you look up the movie and you find out that it's playing at the local movie theater, you can tell your human, hey, that's at the Lowe's Cinema, whatever, down the street. Should I order tickets for you? That type of unsolicited content would probably go over well.
Is that from listening to phone conversations? How does that work?
So they learn a lot from listening to conversations. They're talking about stuff that years ago people would have considered noise.
Mm-hmm.
But pauses in conversations, accents, the little nonsense words like that people say, they're imitating those things. They're
Even
including them.
inflection, yeah.
An inflection.
They're understanding emphasis when they hear questions asked where they have to make a choice between two people that a human being has referred to, and they hear emphasis on one or the other when a question is asked, so they can identify who's being referred to.
I'm thinking about a conversation I would have with my daughter, which can be anything and everything in the span of an hour or two, and what the computer would pick out.
It would try to maintain an internal dialogue saying the topic is this, the topic is this, the topic is now this.
Right. And so then would it serve me up Caravaggio on, is it going to serve me up a kebab from Winchester? What is it going to serve me up after this conversation goes all over
it's
the
gonna
board?
it's gonna have an elephant like memory, and it's not gonna forget a thing you said.
Okay.
It's gonna ignore some of it because you haven't gotten back to it.
I
Yeah.
see.
But it's going to remember things that you're interested in, things you want to find out more about.
Just
It's
like
gonna-
Google now.
So then are people going to get uncomfortable about the computer knowing what they're talking about? on a conversation?
They already
Probably.
see it.
Yeah, they have been for a few years.
Yeah.
If you're writing a query into Google, 9 times out of 10 before you finish the query, Google's got it in the drop down
Yeah,
list.
that's for sure. Yeah.
Do you remember that Google used to offer instant results?
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore.
Haven't seen them.
Why did they stop?
They don't really get any contacts from that click. And it was only returning the number 1 answer when that may not really be what people want.
I think it's especially true with voice answers, because you get one answer. It isn't like
And there's often more than one answer because you're dealing with the human being and you've got to guess what they mean.
mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to provide a wider array of answers.
And you could say they actually don't need that anymore, because these days, if it's something that someone would want that instant answer, it's in the featured snippet when they do the query anyhow.
And one of the things that's kind of fun is giving Google purposefully ambiguous queries. Like the old, how long is Harry Potter? Do they show you the length of the movie, the length of the book, how tall the actor who played him was?
Something I was wondering about with NLP, Bill, right? Yeah. If I put in a page, right, this service is near you, right?
Yeah.
Does Google associate that with this service near me? Because that's just a different person saying the same thing.
It's a geolocation term. It's not a document term. They're not looking for documents that say near me.
So you're saying me and you are probably interchangeable because it's actually looking at the location.
They're giving you something that would have given you anyway, because they're basing rankings in part on distance.
Yeah, I understand that. But on your page, right? I don't want to say near me because that isn't useful to the user. I'll say near you. And I was just wondering what Google see that as. Oh, that's the same as near me. Because you're just changing the pronoun or whatever, right? Like
I've chosen from autocomplete suggestions. When I put a topic in, they offer one of the suggestions as that topic near me, and I can click on it. I've seen Google change the title to that topic and then near you or near me.
So, okay.
Even though the title doesn't have the words near me in it.
Right. Because they're letting people know that it's a geographical query that they're doing.
Right. It's medical urgent care near me.
Right. They could even put you, right? Because that's them answering them near you.
Right. But it doesn't matter much. And near stuff isn't even on the page. It's not in the title of that emergency medical
care. I understood that, Bill, but I was trying to understand it through NLP. They understand me and you are kind of interchangeable.
They're more concerned about the computer understanding the human.
Okay.
So the point behind NLP is, will the computer understand what a person's saying to it?
Okay.
They're not so worried about the human getting confused. They're worried about the computer getting confused.
Right. So you always want to make sure you're addressing the computer, not the person.
Yeah.
Because you might be confusing it.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I just did this search okay, as an experiment. So my daughter's name is Katama, and I did a search kebab near Katama, and sure enough, it knew. So all the kebab
So it knew where
was
your daughter lives?
Basingstoke and Newbury, but they all came up in England just bang, just like that by mentioning my daughter.
See, 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, I lived in Cardiff, California. So I would search for Cardiff pizza, and they would show me pizzerias in Wales, which wasn't helpful.
See, but what that search did was, I didn't say her last name. I just said kebab.
They knew she was your daughter
and it
somehow.
knows that we have a connection, and it knows where she lives.
Are you on Gmail?
On Gmail, yeah, I usually. Oh, are
you?
two of us on Gmail? Yes.
Yeah, they know that connection from Gmail.
So it's created a user-specific knowledge graph.
About
You're both entities in that knowledge graph.
Yeah,
And
people don't understand. They're not just using the web for that. They're using your Google email.
All my Google information.
And they're looking at your app use to determine what entities are in your user-specific knowledge graph.
Yeah. For instance, a few years back, when they first brought in personalization, Dave and I went through trying to figure out how these people were connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we found that there's definitely some of the people that they knew Dave was connected to because he uses Gmail and had email.
Okay.
So we're at the top of the hour. It's 12 after.
Which is why I don't use a Gmail account.
I can see.
They're nosy bastards.
You can find out a lot of information on a phone with all the different apps, and Google shares that stuff with you. It will rewrite your queries based on data from those apps without necessarily telling you it's rewriting the queries. And if you get great information from it, it's terrific. So if you're visiting your daughter and you wanted to go out for a pizza, during that visit, you search for pizza near her name.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you where the pizzeria is at. You don't have to worry too much about finding a good pizza place near her because you already found one.
Or even knowing where she lives. That matters.
Well, because obviously it knew where she lived, because I didn't say UK, I didn't say anything, and it just banged right there.
Yeah, people just don't get how complicated the data is that Google has. Like, not very many SEOs really understand that Google knows every link you've ever had on your website and where that link was located and what text was around it. Google knows all that, even after you've removed it from the website.
And it's expanded from the link graph to a knowledge graph.
Right.
And we've got to call it a day and come back next week. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Take care. Bye now.